You're on, Robert.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Jason. Good evening. Good evening, Clive.
Good evening.
We seem to have a bit of a delay going on.
All right. Well, maybe that's somebody's end. Let's. Who's delaying? Are you getting delays? Are you? Is everything okay your end, Clive? Can you hear me? And
everything pretty clearly. Yeah, I've got a good connection this end.
Is that still echoey for you, Robert?
I've got echoey going on.
Right. Anyway, well, I'll tell you what. While you're sorting that out, I'll give us a start. Anyway, good evening and welcome to Raconteurs News. It is Tuesday, the 6th of December, nearly 2022 gone, nearly gone. Can you believe it? Already.
I know.
It just seems since 2019 times really sped up and gone into warp speed, as it were. Anyway, tonight's a different show. Hosting tonight, it's going to be a health show. So, of course, it's Dr. Robert. He's not a doctor, really, but we call him Dr. Robert because, it boosts his ego a little bit. Go on, Robert. Anyway, you could take over.
It does need boosting, though, Jason. My ego does need boosting. You know.
Everybody's done.
Anyway, that was my fault, by the way. I had my YouTube on, so that's why I was getting a bit of an echo. So apologies there. So good evening, Clive. Good evening, Jason, and good evening, everyone in the chat. Welcome to the Tuesday Raconteurs News Show. And tonight we're going to do a health show, and we've got. I can only describe him, and I don't use this word lightly, but he is a bit of a legend. Let me just give you some background on Clive. First of all, let me just say as well, again, what Jason just said, remind you, everyone, I'm not a doctor, and this show is for information and entertainment only. And so Jason's going to be monitoring the chat tonight and highlighting some questions for Clive a bit later. Just to give you some background on Clive, Clive was an entrepreneur in the field of ophthalmic optics and neurosurgery, having founded both the UK's largest contact lens company and pioneering high-tech neurosurgical and ophthalmic instrument company. So Clive, I'll tell you in a second, Clive, we've got something in common there. Clive also lived in Andalusia in Spain, which is another coincidence because my sister lives out there, Clive. And he purchased an organic farm and set about deepening his understanding of old plant varieties and ancestral gardening techniques, along with the relationship between soil conditions, nutrient levels and health. He also ran, amazingly, a lie detector company and imported rare cars from Japan, appearing on Top Gear in 1993, and then switched to focusing solely on health. Today, over 30 years since his recovery of having type 1 diabetes, which was brought on by some antibiotics, he's been lucky enough to have advised thousands of clients and convinced that most diseases can be primarily explained as nutrient deficiency and toxicity. He's also had the privilege enough to have met, interviewed and worked with many of the leading lights in the health world, from whom he's learnt so many miraculous solutions even to health issues of today. This includes not just nutritional remedies, but ranges from breakthrough stem cell and peptide therapy to quantum bioresonance devices, neurofeedback, PEMF, pulse something modulated something. I'm sure Clive will tell me so. Diathermy, advanced diagnostics, and many more exciting vanguard discoveries with the potential to revolutionize expectations for humanity and health. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Clive de Carle. Welcome, Clive.
Well, thank you very much. Just a quick correction, because when I took the antibiotic, which was 38 years ago, two things happened, basically. I became type 1 diabetic, and I got rheumatoid arthritis so badly I couldn't get dressed or walk or anything like that. Yeah. Anyway, I overcome the rheumatoid arthritis really easily. That's just a question of taking magnesium in a few bits and pieces. But I never got over the type 1 diabetes. 38 years on, I'm still type 1 diabetic. However, if somebody is newly diagnosed as a type 1, they've got about a 3-month honeymoon period where they can put it in reverse. But After 3 months, it's not nearly so easy. Type 2 diabetes is dead easy. You can fix that in a month.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a diabetic retinal screener, so that's my connection to diabetes as well, Clive. I was a diabetic retinal screener for 10 years, and of course, as you well know, all diabetics have to have their eyes photographed once a year to check for any diabetic retinopathy in the back of the eyes. I suppose you still have that done, do you?
I don't with such regularity. I do not like the very, very bright flash from the retinal cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not at all convinced that they are safe. I mean, pretty much every test that doctors do, like mammograms or whatever, do more harm than good.
Yeah.
Biopsies generally do more harm than good. And I'm just not convinced the free service from the NHS, where they flash a hugely unnatural bright light in your eyes, isn't causing the problem, rather than just observing it or I don't know, creating more problems because of the bright flash. You know, I've got no proof about that. Each time I've done it, I thought, I'm really not sure this is right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, again, one of the reasons I left the NHS was because they didn't like me talking about natural remedies. You know, they've really, and I noticed over the 10-year period, because I left them about 3 years ago, I've noticed over the 10-year period that I was there, as it went on and on, they tried to just get me to talk less and less to patients, and they just didn't want you interacting with them or talk, because, you know, people would come in and they'd say to me, you look pretty healthy, Robert. How do you keep fit? And I said, well, I take some vitamins, you know, and supplements, and I eat a good diet. And then it gets onto that sort of conversation. And then, you know, you just interact with people. And I'm of that oik where, you know, it's like, I want to talk to you and, you know, just give you the information that I know. And that's what I love about you, Clive. I sense that you just want to share that information. I'm going to come to that a bit later because of what I've seen what you want to do is going forwards about that. But I'll come back to that a bit later. So what I want to do is just ask you a few questions, really, and then maybe we can go into some questions from the chat. I mean, would you describe yourself, Clive, as a health anarchist?
Well, you see, I love the word anarchy because the real definition, as most people realize, it just means without being governed. And
Yes.
I want psychopathic criminal morons controlled from up above at another level to take my money in tax, tell me what I can and can't do, or anything. Yes. So in the true sense of the word, I'm an anarchist because I'm going to do what I believe in, and I'm not going to be told what to do by others. I mean, you know, I think any anarchist would say, look, we respect natural law, God's law, whatever you want to call it, which is do no harm, you know, don't cause injury, you know, don't harm anybody. And that's about it, really. So I'm a health anarchist, and as much as the way I look at it is essentially, if I'd listened to the doctors and what they were advising me when I was in hospital 37 years ago, I would now be dead. Dead. And it wouldn't have been pleasant. But right now I'm fine. And, you know, all I did was change my diet a little bit, take a few of the right supplements, because if you think the supermarket supplements are going to do it for you, well, they're probably not and might do more harm than good. So, you know, at the end of the day, our human bodies are in one way quite simple. We're made up of some very important nutrients, you know, vitamins, amino acids, fats, and minerals. And if we got one of those missing, well, some bit of us might not work properly. So my view is to go really simple and just look at the building blocks of what makes us tick. You know, what makes the heart work properly? What do you have to have lacking? One thing to have real serious heart problems is the answer is magnesium. And the answer is magnesium for loads of health issues. It's unreal. If the answer is not magnesium, it's probably vitamin C. If the answer is not vitamin C, it's probably vitamin D in England in winter because nobody gets enough of it. And enough vitamin D to get you through a year's winter in the UK is 10 quid for a year's worth. I mean, no wonder the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want people to know.
I'd just like to, sorry, I'd like to just pop in there. Sorry, Robert.
No,
but the magnesium, I had a bag of magnesium mix that you'd sent me from previously. God, do I miss them? I keep meaning to order some more. So I'll just have to, when I send that email to you, remind me as well for some medium. I need to get some medium mix because sorry, some magnesium mix.
Yeah, it's no problem. I mean, in capsules is the way to do it.
Yeah.
I do it for me anyway. That's how I do it. And I advise people, well, I mean, when they say, how much do you take? Well, if I remember, I might take 3 or 4 capsules. But I've had people who've said, well, they're suicidal. They're planning to kill themselves. Or I've had people who've said that they've been constipated for years, or people who are getting heart arrhythmia, people who get restless leg, people who get twitches, people who get hiccups, headaches, epilepsy, migraines, backaches, aches and pains, arthritis, muscle aches, and loads of other things. That's all descriptive of a magnesium deficiency. And how many people in the population are low on magnesium? Well, I include myself, pretty much everybody, because the food's crap, the minerals are gone in the soil, and we're all stressed, and we respond to stress by burning magnesium up. So once you run out of magnesium, well, what's going to happen next? Well, you're going to end up in pain and stressed and not feeling great.
Is magnesium, Clive, the first thing that you're going to recommend to most people, and maybe vitamin C as maybe the 2 most important ones, or something like that? Would you say?
Vitamin C and magnesium were really, I think, primarily responsible of reversing my arthritis. Yeah. I was bad, by the time you can't get dressed anymore, that's, pretty serious stuff. And I was only like 31. So, yeah. The thing is that if somebody comes to me and they've got one of the symptoms that I've just mentioned, in other words, they're so bad they're having heart attacks or they're constipated. Constipation is a very dangerous thing, very, very dangerous thing. People with colon cancer and all those colon bowel type issues, they're almost always constipated. And I had somebody this morning, it was very interesting. They had gone on a fast, and they said it's really peculiar, but eight days into the fast, and I'm still shitting every day. And I said, well, you do realize that what that means is that you were 8 days backed up.
Wow. That's quite serious, isn't it?
People might be having a bowel movement every day and thinking, oh, well, I'm all right. But are they really? Are they really? So if you've got gas or, wind, you're farting a lot, well, that's a sort of fermentation going on. So maybe there is stuff inside you that's been there too long. Now, if you take enough magnesium, well, let's say you take an overdose of magnesium. Well, what the overdose, the body goes, well, that's too much. And now you're in the bathroom with diarrhea. Same with vitamin C. Take too much at one time or too much over a day. If the body says, well, that's enough, again, you're in the bathroom and you're losing it all, or the amount that the body wants to get rid of. So pretty safe. And, both materials have been used for an incredibly long time. I mean, when people went to the doctor in the old days and they used to give them a physical examination and they'd listen to their heartbeat and take their pulse and do all these things, listen to it, tap their body and see how their lungs were and so on. I mean, that doesn't happen anymore. But then they often say, well, look, I think maybe you're stressed. Why? And you're in pain, obviously, whatever it is. So why don't you go to a spa? Now, the spas around the world, Baden-Baden or Bath Spa or whatever, most of them were full of magnesium, and people would hobble in, tired and depressed, naked, and after a few days just wallowing in the magnesium-rich waters, they'd feel better. Pains would go away and so on. Dead sea salts, lots of people have heard about having a bath in Dead Sea salts. You get a kilo, lots of it. Shove it in, really hot, wallow about for 25 minutes, and a lot of people say, oh, I just feel magically relaxed. So I can't be bothered. I get bored in the bath. I quite like a 5-minute bath, but not 25 minutes. And I don't like it that hot. So for me, I just take a few capsules. But the question is, if you go down to your average high street health store, so-called health store, they probably won't sell you the right type. It'll fix your constipation probably, but it might not actually give you any magnesium to actually feel calmer. And magnesium is the mineral that relaxes. So take some magnesium and you're stressed or tense, it relaxes your mind, your brain. If you are feeling physically stressed and now your heart's being uneven, or all that stuff, magnesium is the magic answer. If you've got something inflammatory, examples of inflammatory would be cancer, which for legal reasons I always spell with a K. Cure and cancer are two words you can't use spelled right, so I always spell them with a K. Obviously,
I don't like that word cure either, Clive.
Well, I mean, I reversed my arthritis, but one could say I cured it. I mean, I'm not quite sure in that instance what the distinction is, but I don't believe that autoimmune diseases exist, so I didn't cure an autoimmune disease, but I did fix the pain.
Yeah, like the word cure, we cure meat.
That's true.
Do you see what? And I'm sure you know that there's a lot of power in words. Everything is energy. Therefore, I just don't like that word cure. I'd say like I got rid of it, or I'm over it now. But words are quite powerful, and I just think that everything is energy. Can I just say that thank you to you for actually talking. I remember you were on the show a year ago, and that was the first time anyone had really explained to me about magnesium. And you went out and you inspired me to buy some decent Dead Sea salts and make my own magnesium oil.
Oh, good.
With distilled water, because it's so easy to make.
Exactly.
Isn't it? It really is. And you really did inspire me. I got the proper Dead Sea salts and made a 50-50 mixture with it, with my distilled water. And I have to say, Clive, I used to get a lot of back pain, and it's gone. It really has gone. I mean, when I was a younger man, I used to move pianos around for a living, and now and one day I damaged my back, what they call a slip disc or whatever, and I was on the floor for at least a month trying to get over it. And that was in the days where I didn't know anything about health. I'd say I empowered myself to learn about health once I got into the NHS and started becoming a diabetic retinal screener. That was around 2007 or something like that. And that was the turning point for me. And now I even make my own vitamin C capsules. But sticking to the magnesium, I want to ask you, can you overdose? Can you build up a tolerance to magnesium?
Not that I'm aware of. And
right.
I advise
so not like vitamin C then?
Well, yeah, they're both. You get to the point you've taken too much, you get diarrhea and the body evens it out. Now, you can go online and find that everything will kill you, if you take
absolutely. Yeah.
And this is sort of true. You can drown in water. And there is hypermagnesia, apparently, where somebody has too much magnesium. I've never witnessed it, but I've read in the literature that such a thing exists. But for years and years, I've been giving people what most people would think is a ridiculously high dose. But I say, look, try the high dose for a day, 2 days, 3 days, see if whatever the symptoms are, that they go away. And if they go away, then drop it down. I say I take 3 or 4 a day, because that seems to be the level where I'm feeling calm, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling bright, I'm feeling not in pain, that kind of thing. So that seems to be right for me. But for most people, they're on the floor with everything. I mean, they've got low levels of everything. So taking quite a lot to start with, if you're cautious, you can start one and build your way up. I'm not suggesting that necessarily you go straight to a full dose, but everybody's different also. I can take 6 capsules at a time, 8 capsules at a time, no problem. Other people, if they take more than 1 at a time, they're in the bathroom because their bowels are very sensitive and they can't handle the volume. So everybody's different. And as Mark Twain said, don't believe what you read in health books, because you might get killed by a misprint. and don't just listen to what I'm saying and do it, because I might misspeak.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's probably also why we feel so much better when we go to the seaside, because if we go into the sea, it's full of magnesium, isn't it?
And not only that, it's full of iodine. The doctors might have said go to the spa. They might have also said go to the seaside.
Yeah.
Right. So you get by the seaside, masses of iodine because of the air. Chances are you might eat some fresh fish. If you're really sensible, you might eat some seaweed. And the iodine is the next big one.
Yeah.
Iodine is the one for clear, sharp thinking. Iodine is the one that, generally speaking, stops the symptoms known as menopause. In Japan, where they eat so much iodine in all the seaweed, because they're eating seaweed,
doesn't exist, does it, menopause?
Well, they don't even have a word for it.
No.
I mean, there's not a word in the language for it. And they hardly get any breast cancer at all. The iodine is massively protective to the body. Every 25 minutes, the blood's going through the thyroid, which has the most iodine. And so pathogens get wiped out with every flow of the blood. Second place, at least in women, where the iodine is second most prevalent in the body, is the breasts, which sort of explains why the Japanese don't get really much breast cancer.
Yeah.
And it's the basis for all our hormones. It's in every cell of the body. Iodine is so massively important, and everybody's low on it pretty much. I take iodine, but I always take selenium, not exactly at the same time, but I take selenium hopefully on that same day, because selenium makes iodine work properly, and iodine makes selenium work properly. Selenium is one of the ideal detoxifiers in the world, and we're all got a toxic load. I mean, I used to have brown spots on my hands, which they call liver spots or age spots.
Yes, yeah.
And what that is rancid fats that the liver hasn't been able to sort of deal with properly. And so I started taking a good quality of selenium, and the age spots went, which I would say is a sign that I'm getting younger, maybe, or at least my hands are. Somebody's just written in the comment, vitamin C is only active for 45 minutes in the body, so little and often would be best. Well, in my research, I would say not 45 minutes, but 12 hours. So if I'm taking vitamin C, I'll try and take it twice a day.
Yeah, and it depends, doesn't it, Clive, on how active you are, because the warmer the body is, the more you use of the vitamin C. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not sure about that, but the more unwell you are, the more unhealthy you are, the more vitamin C your body might call for. So, when I had an organic farm out in Spain, I didn't supplement with anything at all, because I was getting fresh water from the mountains coming up as mineral water. I was growing a lot of our own food, and I was getting what I need. But here in England, it's not so easy. You pick, let's say, a red pepper, right? It's fresh, you eat it, 100% vitamin C. But if it's been transported from Spain to here and sat in a warehouse and sat in the supermarket and then sat in your kitchen, how much vitamin C is actually left? The minerals will all be there, but the vitamins, they're probably half dead. And so things like vitamin C for most people are important. And, if you're eating really well, but just the food isn't as fresh as you might like it to be, well, maybe half a teaspoonful twice a day of pure powder would do the trick. But some people are really ill, and they might need twice as much, 10 times as much, 20 times as much, 30 times as much intravenously, conceivably.
I was going to ask you about intravenous vitamin. Now, I did a show because, so I've got my own show that I do every 2 weeks. I do a health show called Health Freedom UK, and I've got my own channel. And last week, Clive, I did one specifically on vitamin C. And what's getting very popular now is this intravenous vitamin therapy. What's your opinion about intravenous vitamin therapy and them giving people 7,000 units intravenously? Is it?
You can do much more than that.
Well, I've heard you can do up to 100,000 and it wouldn't do any damage. If you were trying to maybe get rid of a certain condition, shall we
Yeah,
say?
that begins with a K and ends in an answer. Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard of 200 grams. That's what, almost half a pound or something, being given intravenously over a 24-hour period. And somebody was meant to die the next day, didn't. But for us who are healthy, let's say, there'd be no need for IV. But if somebody really was feeling, ugh, what I would do is I'd be trying taking it orally first, and then maybe consider IVs. There are people, people who run the sheep farm podcast. Don't you listen to the sheep farm?
Do. Yeah. I know that. I know them. I follow them.
Yeah, they're great, and they do IVs of all sorts of types. There are lots of places around. Put IV vitamin C, and you'll find it. And people give different dosages. Some might give 7 grams. Some might give 15. Some might give more. It really depends. The iller you are, the more you need. And but there's a lot of controversy about vitamin C. Should it be natural or should it be synthetic? So let's say you're really healthy. You just want to make sure that your eyes are in good stead. You don't want to get infections. You might want to take fruit-based vitamin C powder. You might need a couple of teaspoons of it to get a decent dose. But I've never seen it cure anything. I've seen what I imagine is protection. But if you want to cure it, all the cures over the last 60 years of almost everything that you call an infectious disease have been reversed with high doses of vitamin C, taken in small doses throughout the day. So the first time I witnessed terminal K answer reversed was 35 grams of vitamin C a day in divided doses, 35 grams. This guy had it once and they'd removed a kidney. He'd got it back again and didn't have another spare kidney to lose. So he did that. When he did die, he was given weeks to live. When he did die, it was 20 years later, and it was from other things.
Yeah.
So vitamin C has got a massive history for reversing everything from scarlet fever to everything you could possibly think of. And all the evidence is there. Probably not on Google anymore, but medical doctors have been using it big time pretty much forever,
Can I just take you back to your farm? I mean, how long did you have your farm for in Andalusia?
10 years. So I bought land that had never had chemicals on it.
Right.
And it already came with some fruit trees and olive trees and cherry trees and almond trees and stuff. And with the citrus, we used to supply it to the organic co-ops in quite a wide area of southern Spain. We were small, but then there were hardly any organic co-ops in Spain when this was 30 years ago, and it's longer actually. Before organic had become huge. So I signed up to the organic certification in Spain. They came and took my money, and I said, "How often is the soil so damaged you can't pass it?" And they said, "Well, normally we pass everything in 3 years, but if it's really, really damaged, we always pass everything in 5 years." So somebody could have been putting on toxic poisons forever, for 100 years, but it would still be counted organic if 5 years had gone past. And is 5 years enough to put the life back in the soil and
Probably
get the mineral? Well, I think definitely not, quite honestly. So then in the next 10 years, I paid my subs every year, but they never came to check what I was doing. Never once. Never once.
Really?
Unfortunately, I wish I could report. But I mean, even if they had checked once a year, it doesn't stop the farmer from cheating for the other 364 days in the year. But I was very lucky when the farm I inherited came with this old guy who did stuff, and he explained to me one day there was all these insects everywhere. He said, this is the day. And he said, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take the olive oil that you've made with a little dropper bottle, and every hole in the fields, I'm going to put a drop of olive oil in, and that will kill the insects, which otherwise are going to eat your crop over there. And that was how they used to do it. Took him all day to fill the insect holes. But that solved the problem. Then again, with olive oil, one day we had a horse which had cut its side open on a rock somehow. Anyway, so it was looking nasty, and there were flies beginning to gather. And the old farmer said, no problema, and got a paintbrush and some olive oil, painted it on, total recovery of the horse. All the flies stopped. But of course, this sort of knowledge is to a large degree, I think, forgotten or lost.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about horses, and we're talking about magnesium there again, and minerals. And what do they give horses? They give them horse licks, salt licks.
Yeah, and cows and sheep as well, if there's not enough minerals around in the soil.
Yeah.
I mean, 70 years ago, every big animal vet knew how to cure pretty much every human disease that would be called, something, white muscle disease in sheep, for instance. I'm pretty sure that's either selenium or a zinc or a copper deficiency. And that's exactly the same, in English medicine, they just have other names for it. People with fibromyalgia, for instance, you can bet they're going to be low on magnesium. Selenium is a big one. A couple of things. It's just so ridiculously simple.
Another big person that I remember when I first started getting into health, Clive, was Dr. Joel Wallach. Dead doctors don't lie.
Yeah, dead doctors don't lie. I mean, if anybody hasn't heard the podcast, which was done in the 90s or something, of Dead Doctors Don't Lie, listen to it. It's genius. It's genius.
Because he was a vet, wasn't he?
He was a vet. Yeah, 20 years he was a vet, and just incredible information. And he's got loads of books. I as reference books, I often refer to them, particularly the one called Epigenetics.
Yeah, Epigenetics. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, yeah, it's a brilliant. I think he was he only still is absolutely brilliant.
Ahead of his time. I mean, if somebody wants to have a baby with no birth defects, he was the first one that I read about where he explained, you've got club foot or cleft palate, or you want to avoid these things in your child, you just use the basic supplements, fulvic minerals, which are all the trace elements. There are over 90 basic minerals, and in even the best multi-minerals seldom has all 90, because they say, you only need 15 or 20 or whatever they believe. But actually, it's not just us using those minerals, it's the bacteria. The bacteria in our gut, who are our immune system pretty much, they love some of the trace elements that actually if we view ourselves as a bundle of human cells, we're not using them, but the bacteria, we're outnumbered, they say 10 to 1 by bacteria. So you want to treat your bacteria nicely.
Well, we seem to be great at destroying all the good bacteria in our second brains, our stomach.
Yeah, I'm coming out shortly with a new product, which is actually a prebiotic. Do we really need probiotics, or actually do we just need the prebiotics to feed what's left of our decimated immune system? I took an antibiotic, almost died. Many people have had drugs from the doctors, and many of those drugs from the doctors decimate the healthy bacteria. But you still have some. It won't have killed every single one. So we've got a new blend of prebiotics that feed your existing healthy bacteria and will bring them hopefully back to balance quite swiftly. So I used to say, well, probiotics are what you need. I'm now changing my mind and saying, well, okay, yes, they work in many cases, but actually, you're putting in one probiotic, two probiotics, even just one probiotic alone. Do you know about the Volvo factory? Volvo, as an experiment, their in-house doctor said, look, if you give one probiotic, just one strain, really good strain, to your workers, see what happens. So they said to the workers, look, we'll give you a free drink at tea time if you will agree to take one probiotic. Cut the rate of illness in half immediately, right away.
Well, that was what Dr. Joel Wallach did, wasn't it? Because he went into different countries where they'd have, like kids would be born with certain ailments, and he discovered that the soil was depleted of either selenium or copper or some key mineral.
Exactly, or all of them.
Or all of them. Yeah, because industrial farming started about 1935, and I always say, well, how
that's much earlier than that.
Was it?
It depends what you describe it as, but when they first started messing up was about 1850, when cottonseed oil was introduced in the United States as a healthy oil.
Yeah.
Things deteriorated from then, but aspirin was a patented drug. A lot of people say that part of what was Spanish flu was actually aspirin poisoning.
Oh, is that what it was?
Well, I think it was a number of things. I don't think Spanish flu was a thing, but after World War One, the soldiers came back with these incredible stories, because in World War One, when aspirin was first patented and released, they only gave it to the soldiers. So the soldiers came back saying how incredible it was. It stopped their pain, and also it lowered their temperature. They had a fever and it lowered it. Now, obviously, reducing the pain part is one thing, but people assumed, and the press played it up, because they're obviously being paid to play it up because it was a patented medicine, loads of money to be made. So the people came back and they heard the story about the temperature going down. Now, having a high temperature, having a fever is a good thing. That's what wipes out the bacteria.
The body's healing itself.
So by turning the temperature down, which doctors like to do, you got a high fever, you might explode, or die. And so when the Spanish flu thing happened and people got high temperatures, they thought aspirin was a good thing, but it wasn't. They often died because they'd stopped their own body's defense mechanism.
I also read, Clive, that there was a lot of experimental jabbing going on.
They were doing that. Yeah, they were masked. It was a direct repeat. History
repeated itself.
Repeat itself to a very large degree.
Yeah.
And they injected millions and millions and millions of people. Of course they died.
Yeah.
I made a video for UK Column in about 2013 where I got all the statistics of all the so-called viruses that came out and all the claims made by the drug companies right back 100 years to, pneumonia being cured, this being cured, that being cured. But actually, all these things tend to go in cycles, and they always brought it in right at the end when the cycle was ending and claimed, with smallpox, they claimed success with that. It's all, unfortunately, a con for money. There's always follow the money. The moment they want a drug, and if it's free, be even more suspicious.
Yeah. Can I take you back to your farming? I mean, I had my a guy called Matt Roski, and he's very much into electroculture.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your opinion about that? Are you an advocate? You think? I mean, I've just taken on my own allotment, and I'm going to try putting pieces of wood in there and wrapping copper around the wood, copper wire, and I've already bought copper and brass spade and shovel, because everything that I've read, these are old farming techniques that would help the soil and make it easier with the least amount of, or if any, if none, any pesticides.
I mean, there are loads of books 100 years ago on electroculture, electric horticulture methods, loads and loads of books. I mean, it's, you probably won't find it on Google, but it is all over. A lot of people are doing it, and a lot of people have rediscovered it recently. It's not something I've tried. I just haven't had the time to actually do it, but let me know.
I would. I mean, do you have a garden yourself still, Clive?
I've only got a very small garden, unfortunately, but it's also a question of time. You can spend an awful lot of time gardening, or I've got other things I need to do as well. So
yeah, I'm sure you have. So I mean, we talked about Dr. Joel Wallach. Who else is a big influence?
I'll tell you, Dr. Mark Serkis out in Brazil. Mark Serkis spelled with an S rather than C. Mark Serkis is brilliant. I've done loads of videos with him. Dr. Jennifer Daniels from Panama. She's very interesting. Phil Mycans. I've made a number of videos with Phil. And I'm long since wiped off YouTube. I get censored on BitChute. Rumble have now introduced some pay to play thing. So Odyssey, ODYSEE, odyssey.com. is where you can find my latest stuff, or join my private members club. When the government attacked me in 2014, made me take all my stuff down off YouTube, I started a club where I put it all back. And for the last 8-9 years, I've been adding stuff, as some of my colleagues have been. So it's like an A to Z of interesting material written and video. You go online and search for the cure for whatever you might want, or the remedy, whatever it is.
Yep.
But there's so much, it's overwhelming. But the idea of the Secret Health Club was to try and put what I think are the most important bits of information, generally speaking, in order. So, you want to solve Granny's dementia. There are some key articles and some key videos, hopefully, which are going to help, Can
I just ask you about, that's your, I'm going to put, there's a link in this, in the comments here to clivedecarle.com. And that's where people can find the Secret Health Club and your shop, obviously. And I will put the links as well in the chat here. But I think I heard you say at one point that when you sign up to the Secret Health Club or you join it, you've got to say, or something to do with that you believe in health freedom.
Yeah. So when you join clubs, there's usually like a book of rules, like 200 rules or something, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And, and I've read the terms and conditions, and you tick, as we all do. We all read every term and condition always. So I was thinking about it. I thought, yes, it's just ridiculous. Surely all I want is that if you're a bad guy, you can't play. You can't join the club. So I put the words are something like, I confirm that I support total health freedom. And that's it. So if you're a bad guy, well, you don't value total health freedom, so therefore you can't join. I am thinking about now putting an asterisk with, if you're really stupid and need this explained further, we're going to explain that if you're working for the MHRA, if you're working for whoever it might be, you're barred. But up until now, it's all been fine.
Can you talk to us about you want to share? I think you said you want to share your information, don't you? And teach people how to look after themselves. And you were thinking about going on the road, weren't you? And like doing talks and how to recognize illnesses and things like that. Can you talk to us a bit about that? Called not the Gnosis course, is it?
Gnosis.
Even.
So gnosis from the Greek means to know. So agnosis means not to know. So diagnosis means two people not knowing. You don't know and your doctor doesn't know either. That's diagnosis. So I thought, well, why bother with diagnosis or even agnosis? Let's just teach gnosis, which is knowing. So the thing is that everybody at one level or two knows what the answers are for their individual problem. I mean, let's just take emotional stuff to start with. Somebody tells you when you're young that you're hopeless, will never amount to anything, and every relative has always died of X, Y, Z, and you believe it. Well, you might then believe that you're not very good at anything and die of X, Y, Z. So a lot of people haven't got over the emotional issues of their life. They got raped as a child, they got abandoned, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got issues or had issues. The question is, are you over it? So years ago, a couple of decades ago-ish, I was researching the survivors who didn't die, right? Particularly with the K cancer thing. The ones, because there are very few that live past 5 years. Doctor, if you die at 5 years and 1 day after your diagnosis, that was a cure as far as doctors are concerned. But that's not if you die. You might have been ill for 4.5 of those 5 years. So I was interested in the survivors who'd gone 10 years, for instance, longer, and it had never come back. Because if you don't fix the cause, chances are it's going to come back. Anyway, so I started researching what was the magic bullet. And I was expecting vitamin C. That was what I was expecting most of them to say, or vitamin D, or a combination of that and magnesium and iodine. I didn't. Something like 9 out of 10 said, oh, it was gratitude. That was when I knew that I got over the hill and everything was going to be all right. They said, when the illness first happened, I was so angry upset, it's unfair, why me? All the thing, somebody told you had cancer and you might die. And even if they're not told they might die, they assume it. Some cancers take 20 years to progress. A lot of prostate cancers. By the time they've spotted it, you've probably still got 20 years left. Some cancers you actually live slightly longer with the cancer than without. So gratitude. And they said, well, I hated it to begin with. Then suddenly I realized it had happened for a reason. I wasn't looking after my body, or I'd never got over the past, or I'd never forgiven somebody, or I'd never forgiven myself. I thought I'd made mistakes, but actually it turns out I just learned lessons. They weren't mistakes. I did what I thought was right. And so a lot of people just wake up and the cancer can shrink in half. Every doctor's seen it. These inexplicable things where suddenly it's much, much better. So how much of us are dragged down by the way we think? If we think it's hopeless, well, chances are it's probably hopeless. If we believe there's hope, there's a good chance that our body will respond to that. I think what you think about has a habit of happening. So thinking positively, one of the big things is that it's like there are two of us. There is the happy us and there's the unhappy us. And essentially, as I'm sure people know, those two us's are the us that's in the love state. In the love state, we're in the now, we're in the present, just like right now, everything's fine. Yeah, there might be problems had loads of problems in the past. It might look quite dodgy in the future. But if you're in the now, if you're in the state of love, you're being positive, you're feeling good. But then something ghastly happens and suddenly you've fallen out of the love state and now you're in the fear state and you're worried, you're anxious, you're feeling guilty maybe, you're feeling angry, you're feeling fearful. All the negatives are in the fear category. Now, once you're in the fear category, it's very hard to remember what it was like to be happy. People get stuck in the fear state. They're unhappy for a long time. And what woke me up was about 30 years ago. I was on the farm and a lot of things seemed to have gone wrong. And I was very depressed. I don't think I'd ever been so depressed, worried about relationships, the whole thing. And for a couple of days, I'd been really feeling miserable. And at that point, I was literally sitting on the floor going, oh, fuck, what now? Anyway, the phone rings. And, I was in such a bloody phone, hello. Anyway, it was this incredibly sexy woman. I knew, fabulous woman. Nothing was going to happen. But I went from the deepest misery to ecstasy in about 2 seconds flat. And it suddenly hit me like a brick. Wow. If a phone call can change my mood like that, surely I'm in more control than I thought I was. So I started writing post-it notes to myself and putting it around the place, saying things like, is what you're thinking, if you're unhappy, is what you're thinking just an assumption? Or is it truth? Is it fact? And I'd put, are you in the love state or the fear state? I'd stick it for the girlfriend as well. That quite upset her. But it was really valuable because we all work on habit. If we're in the habit of being depressed, we tend to do that a lot. If we're in the habit of thinking about what are the best things that have happened in my life, what are the things that make me most happy? Most people, you ask them, what are the 10 worst things that have ever happened to you? They'll reel them off in order. You say, what are the 10 best things? It takes them longer to think about it because they've always been dwelling on the bad stuff, not, being in the present. And when you're in the present, in the moment, in the now, and you can relax from the pressures of life, then you have that chance to be one with the universe. And then the intuition, the ideas, the new things come in. But most people, they wake up to the radio alarm clock, and every second of the day, they don't stop. They don't go for a walk. I find if I want to sort of connect myself to where I want to be, I could go driving because then I'm on autopilot. My brain is distracted by the driving and my mind is free to float about and come up with good ideas. I come up with great ideas when I'm driving, but I don't want to turn the radio on because that that'll be a distraction. I just want enough distraction, which is driving, to keep my brain happy, because the brain and the mind, I believe, is two different things.
Yeah, I was just recently I've been doing some decorating, and I don't have the radio on, and it makes me focus. And then you just start thinking, and really concentrating. And what you were just saying there about the positivity and negativity and stuff like that. One of the best books that did change my life was a woman called Louise Hay. You Can Heal Your Life.
Yeah.
And that really changed. And she taught me about affirmations. And I remember writing out affirmations, and like what you said, and I would do the mirror work and, put the positivity back in myself. And I started doing that at a really bad time in my life. And I predicted that I would be much happier in my future. And I was right. I was spot on.
Yeah.
And it's that self-learning. It's predicting your own future as well, isn't it?
Well, I think that if your motivation is to be useful, you might say, in as wide a, I see a lot of people who believe that it's all about money and possessions and so on. I love money and possessions. I've got no problem with that. But they forget that actually what tends to make people the happiest is when they've helped somebody else and that person says thank you or I love you or whatever. Actually, most of us want to be told that we're loved and appreciated and so on. And that really only happens if you actually get out there and do something for somebody else. So I see a lot of people getting unhappy because they've forgotten that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Clive. I just want Jason, did you want to jump in?
Well, I can't remember now. They were one a bit, but a little bit. That's what I was saying earlier on when you were talking about. This is what we're thinking. You were talking about earlier on about how your mental state can affect your physical state, and your physical state can affect your mental state, and it's that getting that balance. And I'm a firm believer because I've gone through so much stuff that and come through it through other side, and I've laughed my way through it all, even though it's been really, hard stuff to deal with. I've still laughed my way through it, and I firmly believe that that's a huge part. So that was just what I wanted to to mention there. And also, Robert, I was just going to point out to you that remember we've got starred questions from the chat.
How long are you here for? I don't know. Sorry.
As long as you like. As long as you like.
Fantastic. I just wanted to talk to you. The next thing is about when did you discover violet ray machines?
18 years ago, I was working with a medical doctor, and I'd had a business partner, and both of them, within about a 3-day period, both said, "Did you realize that Tesla had invented healing devices?" And the first one I bought was diathermy, and I had incredible results with diathermy. That was basically the hospital version. And then I realized that Tesla had made what he called Tesla high frequency devices, and I started getting keen on those. The problem was getting them restored, because there's almost nobody left in the world who actually understands how to tune high frequency devices, because you've got a Tesla coil in the main control box. Then you've got another Tesla coil tuned to that one, because it's all about resonance. It's less about what the actual frequency being transmitted is. It's way more about resonating Tesla coils. So the Chinese are making copies now of these machines, but they're, back in the day, they were allowed to make glass any way they liked, and they could pollute the hell out of the planet. Now there are different laws about how to make glass. You used to be able to make borosilicate glass. Now they don't like the method. Anyway, so luckily, lots of the old machines still exist. And over the last 18 years, myself and I now know all the restorers in the world who do this stuff. And there are about 5 of us who search for them and fix them, basically. And you know, for every one you buy, there's probably one that doesn't work. So we've got masses of spares, and my main restorer has been doing it now for over 20 years. And even then, he still gets stumped from time to time, because these machines are all handmade. So just because one machine looks exactly like the next doesn't mean it's actually the same, or the screw holes are in the same place or whatever, because of the handmade nature of them. And so most people, when they see them, they just don't know quite what to do. I mean, for instance, let me show you. You know, the machines often have capacitors in them, otherwise known as condensers, but most often you don't know what power it is. So people, you know, the handles of the machine. I've got one here which is filled with oil, but most of them are insulated with beeswax, and these machines can get hot. So what often happens is somebody doesn't realize they have to turn them off, or they run them for too long and they burn out, the beeswax melts and various things go wrong. But as I say, we restore them and supply them, and you know, they're not inexpensive. But if people join the Secret Health Club, there's a special £1 entrance fee, so that they can get in, they can sign the agreement that they're not bad guys, and they can get in and see the videos that I've made. You know, I've had people who have been told by the eye hospital after 3 days that they're going to need steroids and antibiotics for the next 6 months, or they'll likely lose their eye. I've had people I've got one video where I get 34 people out of pain in a row. 34.
I've seen that video, Clive.
Right.
You were doing you were in some
yeah, I had a few people, and I did about 3 to 5 minutes maximum with each one.
That's right. I saw that.
So this technology used to be in every hospital. Doctors used it, dentists used it, even hairdressers use this tech. But then, you know, the media and Big Pharma changed everything. You know, they went to the teaching hospitals. I mean, you know, Guy's Hospital in London, right? Now, in 1843, they opened their electrotherapy department, in 1843. But by the time Rockefeller's drug medicine came out, all the teaching hospitals were basically bribed. You know, we will fund your wonderful teaching hospital if you stop homeopathy, stop herbalism, stop electrotherapy, stop water therapy, stop everything. You know, there were 20 homeopathic hospitals in England 100 years ago, 20 of them. You know, you don't get to be a clinic if you're no good. You don't get to be a hospital, but 20 of them. There were hydrotherapy, water cures all over the place, loads of them. You know, even in Bath, there's still the mineral water, the Royal Mineral Water Hospital, an entire hospital just dedicated to treatments using water, mineral water, obviously lots of minerals and so on. But that all got stopped. But luckily, the machines are still around. Say the issue is restoring them to make them safe, because safety wasn't an issue back in the 1920s. You know, they were pretty rough and ready. So, but if people do want to know more, and it is incredible, it's the most important lost technology that I'm aware of, they can go onto secrethealthclub.com, pay their quid and join, or they can pay, I think it's 70 to join the entire club.
I was going to ask you, Clive, what happens to people who have got new joints that are metal?
No problem.
Okay. I thought the electricity would be a problem.
No, because you're grounded to it. Yeah, the only problem would be if there was some void inside the body, but generally the body's tissues grow around the implants. So, you know, if you're treating yourself and you touched something like a metal table leg, it would ground, and that would give you like a static feeling of a shock. If you stroke the cat or touch somebody else while you were treating yourself, they would also get a static shock. But the worst that can happen, I suppose, of all the things you could get wrong, and most people are very unlikely to do this, right? I'll show you a rare electrode. This is the prostate electrode.
Wow.
And because occasionally sparks can jump, you wouldn't want to use this and fart.
I want to show you something, Clive. Look, I've got one.
Oh, right. Excellent.
Yeah, it's and it does need some work doing to it. So I was going to pick your brain actually and say who can do it for me. But yeah, it's quite an old one.
And this is a very difficult thing. You see, I know all the restorers, and I keep them busy. I've got more machines than I've got restorers.
Yeah.
So this is an issue. You know, I can't recommend anybody because I'd be hitting myself over the head by doing it. It's a bit of it's a problem in the world. But as I say, I'm teaching two people at the moment how to restore them. But with one of them, well, both of them have been at it now for a couple of years or so, and they've by no means mastered it because every machine is different.
Yeah.
So at the very least, what you've got to do is you've got to change the capacitors and rewire. That's the very least.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't turned it on or anything. You know, I didn't want to. It says it's 110 and 220.
Yeah, so it's 220, and the chances are it might work. You know, you've got a 2 out of 3 chance maybe that it's going to work, but you don't want to test it until you've made it safe. So that's capacitors and wiring at the minimum.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. So yeah, not a problem then for people who've got artificial joints and things like that.
No, it's very, very unlikely. Very, very unlikely. You know, the worst that would happen is they might feel a bit of pain, which might happen 1 in 500 times or something. And if that's what happens, then don't do it there.
Yeah. Can I ask you how the lockdown affected you personally and your business? Did it?
Oh, business went better because
Did it?
people suddenly had all this time on their hands to think about health. You know, they were barraged with health fear. So for the people who were aware that maybe there was an intelligent way to keep oneself healthy, because the default state obviously for humans is healthy, and if you're not healthy, well, only 3 things could possibly go wrong. One would be physical damage. You've been hit by a truck and now you're not well. Then there's the other type of physical damage, toxic poisoning from maybe a metal filling or some dental work or eating bad food or bad air, bad water, whatever. Then there's nutrient deficiency. So only 3 reasons why the body goes wrong. Trauma, physical trauma, emotional and toxic poisoning type trauma, and nutrient deficiency. We should self-care no matter, relatively speaking, no matter what. Most things are reversible.
Yeah.
Most things.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your newest products? And how much do you have into bringing out a new product, Clive? And I mean, are you involved in the whole process of getting all the recipe together for a new product, etc.? And
yeah, I mean, when COVID hit, suddenly there were shortages of bottles, of labels, of materials, of everything. It was just a nightmare. And so we bought we got a manufacturing facility, clean rooms and all that, and air conditioning plants, and we bought 2 encapsulation machines and mixing machines and drying machine, all the stuff. And so now we make our own supplements. So we're in total control. We don't have to add any additives or colors or nasty stuff. We can make it as pure as it's possible to make it. And so I've got about 20 new recipes that we're, every week we have meetings with my guy at the lab so that we can develop new products. And today we finalized what our sleep product is going to be. We've been working on this for ages. What is the sleep product that we think, generally speaking, is going to be the most effective? So we nailed that one today. I'm trying, this is not in...
Will it be 5-HTP, Clive? Or?
Well, 5-HTP produces tryptophan, but that's 2 processes. So we already have tryptophan on our site, and that a small amount of tryptophan be one of the ingredients, but tryptophan doesn't suit anybody. This is what I'm trying right now, actually, as we speak. Do you know what this is?
No.
It's methylene blue. And methylene blue was developed by, I think, a Dr. Erig, maybe, I can't remember how long ago, but 100 years or more ago, probably more than that. He was the first person to use the phrase magic bullet. The very first person to use the word magic bullet was about methylene blue as a brain enhancer. It's a nootropic. And so I'm just trying it out. I've been researching it now for probably 15 years. I've been aware of it, but this is actually personally the first time I've actually decided, okay, I'm going to drink this blue drink. There are minor disadvantages. Your pee goes blue, which is your tongue might
like asparagus, isn't it? When you have too much asparagus. Okay, and just before we start, we go to ask some questions in the chat, Clive. I just wanted to say, have you ever decided, has anyone ever approached you to do a career in radio? With that voice of yours, Clive? Or,
recently, funny enough, for the first time, somebody has asked me to do a voiceover for a Cuban music video or documentary. But like so many things, will they raise the money? I don't know. But I'm open to offers. I'm open to offers.
Where are you originally from, Clive?
England.
Yeah, I know that. Where was you educated? What area were you educated then?
Well, my first day at nursery school, I hated school from that moment till the day I burnt it down. That was a joke. Funnily enough, I said that joke to this girl the other day. And she said, "No, you did as well." I was joking. She really did burn her school down.
So you didn't like school? You didn't like school?
I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I went to the same, up until I was like 13, I went to the same school that Prince Charles went to in London, Hill House it was called.
Okay.
By a lieutenant colonel. It was great in a way. We spent a month every year in Switzerland, either mountain climbing for a month or skiing for a month. But basically it was run by a couple of Nazis who, it was an interesting school to go to, put it that way. But I hated it. And then I went to a minor public school called Highgate in London.
Highgate, yeah.
But I had this great experience. I was always hugely entrepreneurial, and I would buy and sell anything that I thought could make some money when I was about 12, 13 and so on. And somehow I traded something for this radio-controlled car. And this was really novel back then, radio-controlled car. I didn't realize that Tesla had invented radio control in the 1890s or something. Anyway, but it didn't work, this radio-controlled car. So the school had all these societies. You could join the Geography Society or the History Society. There was a Radio Society. So I decided to join it because I thought somebody in the Radio Society must be able to fix my radio-controlled car. Anyway, I go to the first meeting, and it turns out there are only 2 members, me and the head of school. Right? We're the only 2 members of the radio. And he's got no clue how to fix my radio-controlled car. Not a clue. So that was a waste of time. However, for 50 shillings, which is not very much money, I bought the master key to the school. So suddenly I could get into the headmaster's office. I could get into every room in the school. It was a joy. So because I was hugely interested in chemistry and stuff, I was able to break into the chemistry lab and steal everything that exploded.
Well done.
Then when I'd used it all up, somebody said, "Well, did you know about ether?" I said, well, tell me about ether. That's that stuff you run your model airplanes off. So yeah. So if you sniff it, you'll go out of body. It was, after chloroform, it was the second anesthetic, dissociative anesthetic, which means you leave your body. So I'd stolen all the ether there was to steal at school. So I used to go down to the chemical suppliers, pretend I had a model airplane, which I couldn't afford, I couldn't really have, and bought ether. And so I used to have out-of-body experiences after school every afternoon. Anyway, then one day, suddenly, my out-of-body experience was different. This time, I'm floating on the ceiling, looking down at my crumpled body on the ground. And for like for a millisecond, I'm aware of everything I'm going through, like mock exams or whatever shit was. And suddenly, boom, that left. And I'm on the ceiling. I'm still me, completely me. Yes, I've got no body. It's down there. And I'm in bliss. So everything's fine. Not a problem in the world. And I'm on the ceiling. And I'm still me. And then, bam, I'm back in my body again. I'm so pissed off. I'm so disappointed. But that set me on a path of looking at substances primarily that would take me out of this world, because I was pretty depressed and hated life, basically, when I was, until I found love. I found explosions that kept me occupied. Then I found hallucinogenics, and then I found things got better.
I just want to ask you this. So when you were having your out-of-body experience, were you conscious of everything that was around you, and were you able to recall? Because and the reason I asked this, my late father, back in the 70s, he had a serious operation, and he described exactly what you did. He said he floated out, and now I'm wondering,
it's really common. That experience of leaving your body is really common. You get a big enough trauma, and things change. And you start asking people, have you had an out-of-body experience? If they have to think about it and go, well, maybe I have, they haven't. But I mean, one time, don't try this at home, children. I was with this girl. I don't know if I should be telling these stories, but anyway. And she said, have you ever tried substance X? I said, no, never tried it. So, well, this is what we're going to do. She said, look, you got to understand this is not about sex, but what we're going to do is we're going to get naked, take this substance, and hug each other tight. And in about 2 or 3 minutes, it will take an effect. You will leave your body, and you will go out wherever and come back. So, at this point, I'd already done hundreds of out-of-body trips, hundreds of them. So it was no surprise. And you could go anywhere. You could go to other dimensions. You could meet entities. Lots of things you could do when you're out of body. Anyway, every time I'd ever tried it, hundreds of times before, once I'd had the journey and come back, well, that was it. It was over. But this time, as she'd said to me, what you're going to find when you come back is you're going to be held, physically held, in a state of pure love. And for the first time ever, I went back out again to a different place, came back, held in a state of love, out again, out again. Then suddenly I got to a place I'd never been before, which they call the void. So suddenly I'm in the void, and again, it's blissful. Like the first time I left my body, bliss, absolute bliss. I felt I could have stayed in this place forever. So to describe the void, what I found was I have no body, but that's what happens when you go traveling, you have no body, it's irrelevant. And there was, it felt like everything was there in this void, but it was black, there was nothing to see. You were aware that everything was there, but there was nobody to talk to. There was nothing to say, nothing to hear. It was like paradise of pure nothingness. And it was so comfortable, I literally could have stayed there forever. Somebody said, you're going to be here for the next million years. Cool. It was just incredible. Anyway, then I come back and I'm in the arms of the girl again. Everything's all right. Anyway, so I realized that there are two ways to experience the void. And many people, if they're young enough, may have experienced it as something else. So what happens with these people? They take this material, probably at a club or at a party, and the next thing they know, they're unconscious on the floor. And when they come back, they describe the most frightening experience they've ever had in their lives, where suddenly they're in this place of black nothingness. They realize
They've had a bad trip.
Exactly. But they found the same place, but from a different mental state. And so if you find that void in a state of fear, what happens is you realize you might be trapped here for a million years. There's nobody there with you. There's nothing to see, nothing to do, nothing to hear. It's total blackness, and it's horror show. Same place, same drug. The drug was ketamine.
Wow.
You see,
that's
ketamine
very popular now, isn't it?
You see, you mustn't take ketamine unless you're lying down. People take it so they walk around all falling over the place sort of thing and think that's the trip. No, it's not. You do it lying down, preferably hugging somebody in a loving way, and you take much more, bigger dose. Boom, you're out. And but if you're doing that at a party or at a club, this is disaster. But if you're doing it from a state of love, I thought it was one of the most interesting experiences ever, similar to DMT, different to acid, different thing.
Yeah. How did that change? But how did that affect you with your? I mean, I don't know your, what you, your religious beliefs and stuff like that. Do you think that affected your religious beliefs, having an experience like that?
Well, I hate religion. I'm happy to suggest that there is an infinite power. You could call it God or the universe. I believe in a creation, not evolution. I don't believe that we're some scum from the pond which has crawled out from the sea and developed into monkeys, and I don't believe any of that. I believe in intelligent design.
That there was maybe an ultimate creator.
Well, I can't explain life in any other way, and the way I see it is that we are one minuscule grain of sand, part of the infinite, and that tree over there is experiencing the infinite as a tree. You're experiencing as Robert, you're experiencing the infinite as Jason, and the infinite wants infinite possibility. So it's trying to experience life in every way, good, bad, indifferent, it doesn't care, through everything and everybody in the world. I believe we're all connected. We're all one.
Clive, you've been amazing, just giving us all this information about your past and stuff like that. Let's just line it up for a second. We see you getting all Christmassy there with your decorations in the background. So come on then. So are you a Christmas man?
No, but I've got 4 children and all of them are coming for Christmas. So
right. Okay.
The other thing with the Tesla devices, they're so powerful wirelessly that often I'll turn the Tesla device on and the lights will turn on just because of the power going across the room.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. And just 2 more questions before we go to the chat. What's your favorite Christmas movie?
Don't know whether I've got one. I don't watch telly as such.
I don't own a telly, by the way, either.
When I was young, I liked James Bond films.
Okay.
But
Christmas songs, yes or no?
If I had a shotgun for every Christmas song, every day's Christmas.
That's brilliant. Right, Jason, should we go to the chat and give Clive some questions that have been raised?
While you do that, I just need to get something to drink for a second.
Okay. Yeah. Well, look, mate. Listen, you're just doing brilliant. It's Josh. You just I've starred 15, I think. So they're up there. Pick whichever ones you want to use.
Right. I'll go to the top, and we'll work our way down. Let's have a look down here. I'm going to go to the top and work my way down. Right. Okay. So John Smith, Gary Tendon. Yeah. Okay. Good.
They're all the questions that they were pretty much quite early on, but there you go.
So
got quite a few fans. You've had a lot of praise tonight. Not just
thank you.
not just in the chat room, but also I've had some people contact me privately and give you some praise, a lot of praise. Compelling interview, done a great interview. Seen a different side to Clive, and I'm sat here feeling like a bit of a dummy because I'm like, oh, okay. So what about if something happens to your elbow? What are you supposed to do then? And you're getting, it's nice to hear you two talking. It's just been good listening to you two talking. So there's the starred chat. I'll leave you to it. You two carry on as you were.
Okay, Clive. So we've got John Smith, and let's just show you the question. Here we go. Clive has heard of Dr. Jerry Tennant and his electric painkiller?
Well, I first went to a lecture by Jerry Tennant in Houston, I would suggest 35 years ago. So I know who Jerry Tennant is. I've interviewed him. I've got a couple of hour interview with him I did in about 2013 when I was working with UK Column. And Jerry has one of the best devices around. It's not cheap. It's basically a copy of this. This is the Russian Scanar, also known as the Pain Genie. And the company that makes Jerry's device was an ex-CIA guy who went to Russia deliberately to spy and steal this technology. And he tells the story, he's an American guy. He got the manufacturers drunk, so drunk, he was tipping his vodka away, but he got them so drunk, they told him all the secrets, and he went back to America and copied it. Then it's a frequency device. So Jerry, because he's very, very clever, devised his own frequency sets. And if somebody's got eye issues, he's got a special transducer device to go with. He calls it the biomodulator. But you're probably looking at about $4,000 or something for the whole thing with the eye attachment. I use the Tesla device. I used to use this a lot because it's portable. You shove it in your pocket, but I very rarely use it these days because I've got this sort of device. So I use this one on my eyes, like that, over closed eyelids, as my way of keeping my eyes healthy. But Jerry's fantastic. If you put my name and Jerry Tennant onto Odyssey or join the Secret Health Club, you can. He's very famous for the idea that healing is voltage, and that voltage has a direct relationship to the pH that your body's running at. I mean, your body has various different pHs. The idea that alkaline is the only way to go isn't true, because you need an acid stomach, for instance. There are times when there are areas of the body that want to be alkaline, but not necessarily all of them all at the same time. So pH, he quantifies pH with body voltage. So the idea that healing is voltage, if you change the pH of your body or the cells, you can change the voltage of the cells. And people who are ill are running a slight positive voltage. People who are well are running a slight negative voltage. And by changing the pH, changing your diet, you can affect your health absolutely directly. It's all about epigenetics, above genetics. Your genes don't determine your fate. Genes can just be turned on and on like switches. You can turn them on to function badly or turn them on to function well. And Jerry Tennant, he's fantastic. He must be in his mid-80s by now, but
wow.
Last I spoke to him, he was as bright as a button. Fantastic guy.
And next question, Clive, from Miss Blue Sky. With all the knowledge, Clive, what are your bare minimum recommendations that you can give someone starting out in being more healthy?
Okay, well, you've heard the baby and the racehorse story, have you? The idea is there's a knock at the door, and then suddenly there's a woman getting off this racehorse carrying a 1-year-old, say, and she says, look, I need your help. I've got to do something. Would you mind just for an hour looking after the baby and looking after the horse? By the way, if you could feed them, that would be great, because they haven't eaten for a while. They're hungry. So, okay, suddenly you've got a 1-year-old and a horse. And she said, oh, by the way, the the horse is worth £40 million. It's a winning racehorse. Look after it well, and the baby's even more valuable than that. So, okay, what are we going to feed them? They're hungry, right? So they'd probably both chew on a carrot, maybe. They might eat some oats, both of them. They might have a cucumber. There's stuff we could feed them. So let's decide, fabulously valuable, wonderful baby and a 40 million quid racehorse. How much poison shall we put in their foods? What do you think? How much poison? Probably we'd decide none, right? So you might have a baby, or you might have been a baby yourself once, conceivably. You might even have a horse or not. But the point is, when you're buying food, do not poison the horse. Do not buy food that's not organic. Do not buy food that's not biodynamic. Do not buy food that's been poisoned in any way. A fictional baby, a horse that doesn't exist, you 100% know that you're not going to poison them. Yet, every time you buy a shampoo and rub chemicals into your head, conditioner, soap that's not natural, do you know that cheap soap usually comes from the sewage works because they filter out the fat and sell it? It's called soapification. So, how many of us are washing our bodies and our faces in recycled sewage sludge? I mean, we are poisoning ourselves. If you're not filtering your water, if you're having a shower in chlorine was the chlorine gas that killed everybody. You can buy shower filters for very little money. You can get filters to filter your water. You don't want to drink tap water if it's poisoned. And, you're living in a city where they're recycling sewage. They can't filter out the birth control or the antibiotics, not properly. So no wonder everybody's ill. Everybody should be healthy, but almost everybody, I would say one way or another, is probably ill, aren't they? Or in pain.
Yeah. And also it's about, it's a fascinating point, because what I find is like how people will look after their animals. And when you look at what they're giving their animals, and it says it's got this vitamin in it, that mineral in it, this vitamin in it, and you're thinking they're feeding their animals better than they're feeding themselves, Clive, is what I find.
That's true. I've been shown powdered formula, like for kittens and dogs, which has more vitamins than the ones for humans. Some of these, particularly, so I'm spelling this with a Z, Nestle, some of their products, oh my God, I don't want to get sued.
No. I know a lot about that company as well, and what they've done with them, where they put their products and stuff like that, and what they put in them as well is quite disgusting. There we go, Clive. Here's another one for you. Clive have made the show really exciting and well worth the sub to his channel. So glad you and Jason Robert are glad tonight. Have a very interesting, my kind of interested. Okay, that was just a compliment there, Clive.
Thank you. Yes, fully taken.
Question.
My ego is just a little bit bigger.
Question: what herb does the drug ketamine emanate from?
Don't know.
There we go. Good. That was a quick one, Clive. Well done. Next one here. Let's have a look.
Ketamine, by the way, is described in the press as a horse tranquilizer.
That's right.
It's not a tranquilizer. It's a dissociative anesthetic. Totally different class of drug.
Is that right?
It's right.
Wow.
Because they've got to give it a bad rap. Because if people realized that ketamine is or can be, in the right circumstance, a gateway to literally other universes, just like DMT, they don't want us expanding our brains and our knowledge and our connection.
Well, that's the truth, isn't it? Jason said he'd highlighted quite a few here, but I don't know where they are, because I'm like looking for them here, and I really can't find them in the chat. I'm just looking. Jason, I can't. I thought you highlighted about 15. Maybe I'm going a bit blind here.
Yes.
Oh, here we go. Question: Does gargling baking soda have benefits?
Well, I wouldn't use baking soda, because baking soda, by definition, isn't pure sodium bicarbonate. Baking soda can have other things in it. So, what we use as baking soda is sodium bicarb, bicarbonate of soda. Yeah. And You have to be careful with bicarb. It is one of the very, very powerful medicines. You know, you can stop strokes with bicarb. You can do all sorts of fabulous things with bicarb. But it's important not to take more than half a teaspoonful in water at a time, and don't take it anywhere near a meal because it will turn off stomach acid. It's very alkaline. After food leaves the stomach, it goes into our own natural sodium bicarbonate rich medium. So I've done videos about sodium bicarb, and it is so incredibly powerful, but you want to get it right. So I suggest you might want to watch one of my videos about sodium bicarb, possibly. I interviewed Mark Serkis, who wrote, probably as far as I know, maybe one of the first books about sodium bicarbonate as one of the ultimate medicines. So if you put my name in Mark Serkis, or just put Mark Serkis bicarbonate, you'll learn all about it. So there's some things you can hardly get wrong. Magnesium, very difficult to get it wrong. Bicarbonate, you can get it wrong. So super important to know what you're doing.
I clean my vegetables with bicarbonate of soda, Clive, if they're not organic. You know, I'll leave them in water for about 10 minutes with a good dessert spoon of bicarbonate of soda in order to get rid of, you know, the any pesticides and things like that, or help eliminate them or reduce them even. I don't know what you think of that.
I can have a bath in bicarbonate, maybe bicarbonate of soda, magnesium sulfate, magnesium chloride. You can put a bit of borax in there. So many things you can.
Oh, I'm glad you talked about borax, because isn't boron associated with like a lack of boron associated with people getting arthritis and things, because it's one of those key minerals. And is that the reason why they banned borax as well?
Well, probably. I mean, you know, they are picking them off one by one. Probably a third of the things that I used to recommend are probably illegal now because they work, you know.
Yeah.
So they're cracking down on lots of things. Borax is incredible. Yes, for some people, it's the answer to arthritis. And to put this in perspective, you compare two countries, the country with the highest amount of boron in the soil, which is Israel, the country with the lowest, which is Jamaica. Jamaica have rampant arthritis. Israel have almost none. If you know an Israeli living in Israel, ring them up and say, do you know anybody at all with arthritis? Chances are they'll say no.
Really?
And that's here in England. Do you know somebody with arthritis? Most people know lots of people with arthritis. You know, granny's got it, mum's, whatever it might be. So yeah, borax. So you can buy boron supplements, but borax is the raw material, and you can.
And if you look hard enough, you find people suggesting things how to take it.
Well, exactly. A pinch in a litre of water is decent. I use borax if I'm traveling. I go up to Birmingham or somewhere that's got fluoride in the water. I'll put a teaspoonful or two of borax in the bath. That instantly, boom, neutralizes fluoride, just like vitamin C in the bath neutralizes chlorine. Boom, instantly, instant.
Oh, thank you so much for telling me that, because I live in Bedfordshire and the water's fluoridated, and I hate having to take a bath. You know,
vitamin C, it'll neutralize it. Or if you've got a water tank, you haven't got instant hot water, you've got a tank where the hot water is stored.
Yeah, I've got instant, unfortunately.
Yeah, so if you're lucky enough to have a tank, then all you got to do is run the water for your bath from the hot tap only. You might want to lower the temperature. So this is what I do. I got a tank. So the lime scale that builds up in the tank also neutralizes the chlorine. So if I run the cold tap, I can smell chlorine. Run the hot tap, there's no chlorine.
And how much vitamin C would you put in a bath?
Not much. Teaspoonful would be loads. On my website, I do a vitamin C shower filter, which people absolutely love. People say, well, my skin is so much better. Tiniest amount of vitamin C, hardly any. And it neutralizes chlorine. Yeah, so chlorine was the poison gas that killed everybody in World War I. And we're expected to stand in a shower, breathing in chlorine gas, drinking it in our tea, bathing in it. And it's a poison bloody gas.
I distill my water, Clive.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I distill my water, you know. And Spanish Chicken said this, Clive. Good evening, Clive. My brother is 57, been diagnosed with leukemia, not getting treatment apart from blood transfusions. Is there any supplement that might help?
Yes. I mean, there is no way that I would accept a blood transfusion myself, particularly from vaccinated people.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I mean, there are two reference sites on the internet which are worth looking at. One of them is called greenmedinfo.com. Greenmedinfo.com. Then there's another one which is a little bit easier to use. It's more for the layman, which is earthclinic.com. Earthclinic.com. And when I don't know the answer to something, somebody comes up with some bizarre disease I've never heard of, I'll go to those two sites as a primary to get.
And that's the food remedy one, Earth Clinic, isn't it?
Earth Clinic is partially food remedies. Yeah. Apple cider vinegar is one of their favorite remedies for almost everything. Yeah. But the thing about Earth Clinic is people write in and say, I tried this, this, and this is what worked. Yeah. It's all user-led. It's not about the money and flogging you stuff. It's primarily just you and me talking about what worked. It's fantastic. And Green Med Info is more along the lines of, okay, let's look at the literature around the world. Your problem is autism. Well, here are the top 20, top 100 articles, whatever you choose to set the parameters of looking at. And it's very good, very, very good, very useful. Because the thing is that every year there are over 1 million medical journals publishing articles, over 1 million a year. There's probably at least 50 million already existing in all different languages. And it was pointed out to me recently by my friend Phil Mycans that actually this is the perfect thing that AI could deal with. AI could go through all the research in every language, searching for keywords. You put in, let's say your problem is diabetes, and you put in the word diabetes and cure. What if AI could go through all that 50 million, all different foreign languages, and find the common things that actually worked, right? AI would be very good at that. And, all the answers to every world problem is already solved. The answer to starvation, the answer to water shortages, the answer to money, the answer to everything. All the problems are solved. It's just that the media and the powers that shouldn't be deliberately block that information from people.
We need decentralized governments, don't we, Clive? Or no government at all?
No government. I mean, my local village could run itself. Let's say there's a big hole in the road. Well, that's easy. I'll go online, put in road menders, Wiltshire, and I get a decent quote in a day. We have it fixed tomorrow, maybe. But if the government do it, well, the council will spend 9 months thinking about it, spend £1 million doing it. Paying a consultant to consider what would be the best way to mend the hole. I mean, it's crazy. It costs £1 million, whereas you and I could fix it for a couple of hundred or something. I don't know.
What do you think about decentralized money, Clive?
Well, in 1914,
Bradbury.
Exactly. I made a video about this in about 2000. Yeah. I made a video in 2014 about the Bradbury pound.
Can you just very quickly explain to people what the Bradbury pound is?
Yeah. So 1914, the word had got out that World War I was going to happen, and people began to panic. And the government and the Bank of England realized there was going to be a run on the bank where people would say, I'd like my gold, please, right? Because they didn't trust the banks. So this was a very real threat. So the government declared a bank holiday for 3 days. And the idea was that they couldn't let the Bank of England go bankrupt. All the banks in England would have gone bankrupt because they've lent out 10 times more money than they actually had. So they knew that would bankrupt it. It would all be a disaster. So the government decided they'd take a risk. The government decided that they'd print their own money, and would the people of England accept this new money, right? So they knew what a pound note looked like. suddenly they're asked to accept something totally different. Anyway, so they closed the bank for 3 days. And during those 3 days, they were able to print enough money to reopen the banks. And they said to everyone, we're changing the money, right? You give us your old, we're going to give you new money now. And the worry was that people might rebel and still demand the gold. But the people didn't. The people accepted this new money. And the government were printing it not against debt, which is how money is normally, you borrow money, you're creating debt from zero. They give you the money out of the promise that you've just made to pay. It's insane. So, but England as a resource to borrow money against is infinitely wealthy. My house is maybe worth, I don't know, £500,000 or something. I just rent it. That's probably what it's worth. You add all the houses, all the farms, all the infrastructure, the bridges, the building, you name it. Britain is worth a fortune. So you could borrow money against it. And even if I lent you £1 million, assuming you were going to create value, you were going to take that £1 million and create something that actually adds value to England, right? And you started a new business, you've opened a restaurant, you've done whatever, it adds value to the overall value of England. And so there it is, the government printed the Bradbury pound. It was called Bradbury after the Ministry of whatever, the Treasury or whatever it was, Mr. Bradbury. And so for a short time, days, the country ran printing their own money, not having to pay interest to private bankers. The Bank of England is owned by the Rothschilds and the Queen and ex-Queen, stuff like that. And so it's been done once. The government has shown that they can print their own money, interest-free. I don't like religions, but Jesus would have been very happy about that. No usury. The only time that Jesus historically supposedly got cross angry was when he threw the bankers out of the temple. The money.
Yeah, he whipped them, didn't he? Apparently.
So, the problem of lending money has always been an issue. I mean, I like the idea of being given capital to do stuff that benefits mankind, myself, everybody. That's great. And so it's not a problem about lending money. It's about how you profit from that. And the Arabs, of course, they don't charge interest on money. They manage to get around it with other ways, you might say. But the Bradbury pound has been proven to be the answer. It could instantly refinance Britain. We would no longer be in austerity. There'd be all the money needed that everybody could be wealthy again. It could happen overnight, in an instant. I mean, I hoped, back in 2013, when I first heard about crypto or whatever that was the answer. I mean, if everybody adopted crypto, then we would effectively be changing currency on government. So if government want to fund some war that you don't like, they can only pay their soldiers in currency that the soldiers will accept. So if we, the people, changed currency, just like the government did with the Bradbury pound, we sort of make our own money, government could be cut off completely. They wouldn't be able to control anybody if their money didn't work anymore. So if we all adopted crypto, then we could destroy government immediately. I mean, the world, the country, your town, your village, whatever, should be run locally from the bottom up. If my village couldn't afford to mend the road, then maybe we'd go to the town nearby and say, can you help us out? Whatever. But if you're creating your own money from value, then we can fix the roads. There is no real cost involved. When I was young, electricity was very cheap. Water was free. There was no, the people owned everything. We owned the properties, we owned everything. And then Margaret Thatcher sold most of what we, the people, owned off to the rich who could afford to buy it. They made double their money right away. I saw England destroyed by, a good example was when I was young, I could take my car, put it on the train and at Paddington and take a sleeper train with my car, wake up in Cornwall, and everything was lovely. At the same time, if I wanted to deliver a container full of goods, I wouldn't have used a lorry. That would have been absurd. I would have loaded it onto a train and taken it to the container depot all around England. Thatcher closed that down. There were hardly any lorries on the road carrying containers. It all went by rail. It was only the last little part of the journey that went by road. And Thatcher destroyed that, making the roads a fucking nightmare. And the pollution, everything that goes with it. And now the same type of controlled politicians are saying, we all got to change to electric cars. The fact that that's not sustainable, takes 100 years or something to repair the damage done with the extraction of the materials to make the batteries, is ignored. The world's run by psychopaths, and it's time we all woke up. And the answer is no government. I mean, look at the corruption that's going on. The train drivers, they're on strike, inconveniencing people. The post office, they're on strike, inconveniencing people.
It's like the 1970s again, Clive.
But that's no way to strike. If the train people wanted to strike, how they should strike is just saying, we're working as normal, but you don't have to pay today. You can travel for free. The post office can say, we're on strike, and how we're striking is that we're posting everything for free. No need to pay for the stamps today. No need to pay parcel force. We will do it for free. The government would wake up to that, because that's really striking. But the leaders of the unions are all corrupt. They're all MI5, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're an advocate then of decentralized cryptocurrencies rather than CBDCs, which are that they're pushing now.
At the moment, CBDC, central bank digital currency, come in, that's the end of freedom. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll never be able to do anything ever again without permission.
Yeah.
And people need to wake up. CBDCs, which Rishi Sunak is pushing, as all the leaders are globally, it's all one big club. They're all determined that massive communism is going to take place, where you are not allowed to think, you're not allowed to do anything that's not allowed. Total control grid is this close. And people really need to understand that if they allow government to continue and they accept a digital ID, that's it. That's the end. End of the story. You won't be able to go on the internet unless you're government approved. I mean, the government took me down in 2014.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not even well known, but they'd got my number. It's crazy. So we have to non-comply. The answer is to not comply. I mean, I've never complied with pretty much anything. I never wore a mask. I never socially distanced. I mean, I won't do it. I won't do any of the shit they say.
Amen, Clive. I was exactly the same, by the way. Exactly the same. This is an interesting one, Clive. I haven't heard of this. You can overdose on vitamin C if you take a lot and then stop. It can cause scurvy, known as vitamin C rebound. I've not heard of that before.
It may well be right. I don't know.
Okay.
But the thing is that when you're using vitamin C, if you do stop, you want to just taper off. But I'm not sure that stopping is really a good idea. I mean, I don't want to do anything pretty much every day. But yes, vitamin C is only going to last about 12 hours in the body anyway. But some is better than none. And as most of us are desperately low on vitamin C, but the rebound, it may well be right. It's not something I've particularly looked at.
Any recommendation for magnesium oil makes you itch?
Yeah. If you're itchy, that's your body telling you you're horribly low on the stuff.
Wow. Really?
Using it, the itchiness will go. But I don't terribly like the oil. It's sticky. Actually, you've got to put it on a lot of times during a day to get a big dose. I have a bath and a kilo of the stuff. I much prefer capsules. And, the oil is magnesium chloride, which is a fabulous type of magnesium. But the capsules that I supply have 4 different types of magnesium in, because each type of magnesium has a slightly different effect. And it's so much, for me, I can take a few capsules, boom, it's done. But to get my clothes off, rub magnesium oil all over myself several times a day, I just can't be bothered.
Yeah. What do you think of dimethanol sulfur oxide, DMSO?
DMSO is an incredible material. However, a bit like bicarb, you really have to know what you're doing, right? I'm considering taking a DMSO eye drop because I've got the slight beginning of a cataract. And
is it Amanda Vollmer's one by any chance?
Amanda's, yeah, exactly.
I thought
Amanda.
so.
And I've done some interviews with Amanda. She's great.
Yeah,
and
I'm interviewing her next month, Clive. Yeah.
Good. Well, that'll be fun. The issue with DMSO, the thing I have concerns about, is that it dissolves anything. So you can mix DMSO with anything, rub it in the body, and it will go straight into the bloodstream. Whoosh. So let's say you make a really silly decision. You decide, well, I don't want to rub it in with my hands. I'm going to put on a rubber glove and rub it in. The DMSO will dissolve the rubber glove, and you'll rub rubber glove right into your bloodstream. This is not good. Let's say that you've heard that DMSO might stop the pain in your knee, which it might not, but it might. And then you put on your Lycra leggings while it's still wet. It will dissolve the Lycra leggings, and that will go into your bloodstream. So DMSO is fabulous if you know what you're doing. If you rub it in, let it dry.
Yeah.
Also, your breath is going to smell awful. So
Garlic.
I don't tend to use, well, you see, garlic contains sulfur, just like ginger and cruciferous vegetables, eggs, all sulfur bearing. And that's what you're using DMSO for, to get the sulfur. Sulfur is anti-cancer. It's magnificent material, and it dissolves scar tissue, dissolves fibroids. Sulfur is fantastic, but I prefer, if you take DMSO and you synthesize it to the next step, you get MSM, which is methyl sulfonomethane, which is like the safe version of DMSO. Use DMSO if you know what you're doing. If you're not quite so sure about what you're doing, think about using MSM sulfur, which is just...
Do you sell MSM on your site, Clive?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to tell you that because that would be advertising.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Clive, what do you think? Here's another one. What do you think of homeopathy and its effectiveness to heal illnesses?
Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it turns out, and it's 200 years old or whatever, homeopathy, that a little bit of the poison that would cause the issue that you're suffering with, the most minute amount, it can't even be measured anymore, can be the cure. And I've seen homeopathy do brilliant things, absolutely brilliant. However, it may well be that if you're low on a nutrient, vitamin C, magnesium, whatever it might be, that while the homeopathy can work in many cases, or it might work temporarily, if you're low on a basic mineral, basic nutrient, well, you may need the nutrient more than you need the homeopathy. But I've used homeopathy for insect bites, all sorts. Yeah, homeopathy can be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we're nearly done, Clive. So I'm just going to give you this question. Have you heard of someone in some chat about IR jade stone mattresses? I've never heard of that.
The Chinese have used jade for a long time on skin. You can get jade, like rollers and stuff you can roll around. Usually the infrared beds are made from amethyst. And a lot of people tell me that they lie down on a bed of amethyst, sometimes with an electrical charge going through it, and they feel great. I've never tried it, and I don't know about a jade bed. But all the stones, the crystal, everything has frequency. Your liver's got a frequency, jade's got a frequency, amethyst has got a frequency, the sun, love has got a frequency, 528 hertz. Everything's got a frequency. So, yeah, I can't answer more than that, really.
Okay, cool, excellent. I'm just going to put in the chat down at the bottom all the links to your sites, Clive. Just 1 second.
Cool.
Hopefully that'll be. I think that'll do it if I'm right.
Well, tell people where they can find you, Clive, and tell everyone about your secret health club. I get emails. I'm a member. I get emails all the time. To my shame, I don't really find myself having time because
time is the problem, isn't it? If I could sell time capsules, that would be cool.
That'd be super. Yeah. So tell people where they can find your work and stuff.
Okay, well, I can tell you about the Secret Health Club because that's legal. Secrethealthclub.com. And if you want to research health, that's a good place to start. I mean, I used to do consultations for people, but I don't do that anymore. And people say, well, who else should I go to get a consultation? And half the time I say, well, I've got no clue. I don't know anybody in your area. But you could join the Secret Health Club, look up your issue, and you may well find the answer from a specialist that knows more than I do. You know, I'm just somebody who's interviewed hundreds of people, and I've asked the experts loads of questions, but probably most of that I've forgotten. But the interviews that I did with the experts are still there in A to Z form. So, you know, it's sort of a life-saving resource. What I can't tell you is my website, which is myname.com, because that would be advertising. Because I sell supplements on my. You can say the name, I can't legally.
CliveDeCarle.com.
Oh my God, you got it in one. Technically, it's illegal. If I said it, it's illegal.
Is that right?
According to the Advertising Standards Agency, on my website, I used to have the cancer word written, and the advertising saying you can't do that. So I reduced it to C ... They came back to me. You can't do that. We know what you mean. So, yeah. So I started the Secret Health Club. It's easier. I can tell the truth there. It's a club. They can't shut down. You can do anything behind the club.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm going to have to join, Clive. I'm really going to have to join. I really am.
Just send me an email and I'll join you up for free. It's fine.
Thank you, Clive. That's really kind of you. Thank you so much. Clive, you've been an amazing guest. And I think we've got some stuff out of you maybe we haven't heard before, and it's been great. Thank you for being so frank and open and honest tonight. I've really appreciated it. And I'm sure all the chat has really appreciated it as well, because I've just read some really positive comments there about the whole chat tonight. So thank you again so much.
Well, it's a pleasure. I saw one of the chats earlier, Paul, say that I look like Alec Guinness, and I quite like that comparison.
You certainly could do his voice.
Well, people say that I look like him. People have been saying that for ever since Obi-Wan Kenobi hit the screens. Apparently, maybe I should come on the next show with a hood and a brown outfit.
The force is strong in you. The force is strong in you. Jason, is there an after chat tonight? Are we? I don't know.
It's up to you, mate. It's your show, so if you want to do an after chat,
if people want it, I can put it up there. I mean, I'll stay there for a while. Are you going to go in the after chat anyway?
I'll probably hang about for an hour or two. I've got to obviously move downstairs, but I'll be in there for half an hour or so. So
okay, mate.
Yeah. So if you want to put links,
I'll post it in there. There you go. It's all there. So if anyone wants to jump in the after chat. So yeah, we're going to end the broadcast now. Again, thank you, Clive de Carle. It's been amazing. It's been a year, but I'm sure it'll be sooner next time. We'll have you on the show, Clive. And can I just remind anyone, please also, if you want to see any stuff that I'm doing, I'm going to be interviewing Amanda Vollmer on my YouTube channel, which is Health Freedom UK as well. So if you want to follow me there, and I do specials on vitamins. I've not got the knowledge that Clive's got, but I try and do my best just to give you the best information that's available out there. So please follow me on Health Freedom as well, YouTube. And that's it. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks for all the people who chatted and all your questions. And again, thank you to Clive de Carle. It's been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
Me and Jimmy back Friday.
Yeah, Jimmy's back Friday with Jason. Cheers then, everyone. Bye-bye.